But the idea of singular is like, enjoy your own creativity, enjoy what you're making, stop looking and thinking like, is it better than this person, that person? Because ultimately, are you producing your best work? And the term came to me from, the term of singular came from a video of Pharrell Williams listening to Maggie Rogers, who's now super famous. And she played him the song Alaska, and he listened to it and says, what you do is singular. And she's just sitting there like shocked, and they're like, freaking Pharrell Williams, right? And he says, no, that's what you're doing is singular. And I think that's the most important achievement. No, in my opinion, is to really double down on who you are and become more of who you already are, and go on that path and don't look like left and right. Get yourself inspired, validate your ideas. But we know that Jessica Hayes is singular. We know that Gemma O'Brien is singular. It's more about stopping the busyness of the mind and stopping the movement or the momentum of work, and then allowing yourself thinking, am I doing it right? I think this the scaries that happen to everyone. It's more like, how are you now really equipped to deal with them? And most of the time you just sit with it and just watch the cloud go, okay, that's just a dark cloud, let it pass, and we go again.
Yeah. Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today, I'm going off script with, I would say, a person that has probably been a role model for me for quite a long time. He's a writer, he's a speaker, a designer, self-taught designer. He runs an agency, basically anything you can imagine. He has his own podcast. And I'm super excited and super nervous to be talking to him today. Radim, welcome to the show.
I mean, what an introduction. There's nothing to be nervous about. I mean, I'm not prepared for anything. And it's very kind of you to mention some of the things that I've been doing. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to talk to you and see what we can do, because I'm a fan of your work. I think the typefaces and Type Foundry is fantastic. And you seem like someone who puts real life and soul expression in their work. So I'm equally excited to be talking to you. So yeah.
I'm really glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I will start probably with the question you ask most of your guests. What is daring creativity for you?
So daring creativity is an idea of a philosophy that we should be pursuing the things in life that otherwise we would regret. Daring creativity isn't about the fact that we need to jump out of the plane or do something really crazy that, goes 15 stories high, rather than just the regular stuff. So daring creativity is about the fact that you can make incremental progress with your work, with your thinking, with your mindset, with your philosophy, to go to the places that you create work that you're proud of, that you push yourself, that you grow. Because in many years I've been doing creative work, I've realized that the only person who is making the work happen and that's pushing me is only me, because everyone's got their own life and creative careers and creative journeys, and you need to be kind of, I think, very radically accountable of what you can achieve in this life. And I named it Daring Creativity. I've named it also Daring Forever in the past, that I want to understand how we operate as humans and how we operate as creatives, because I think the world is complicated as it is. It's noisy, and I think we are still to a certain part of our lives, we owe ourselves the knowledge of who are we? How do we operate? Like, what are we processing? Is it external? Is it internal? Is it my body? Is it my ancestral hardwiring? I think there's a lot of things in the mix. And I wanted to package it in a way that I've been pursuing from my podcast, the question of what's daring creativity. I want to see what it means to other people, because I think in a way, daring seems like a word that's pushing you to somewhere where you don't want to be. However, everyone's got their own meaning of daring. There's a societal meaning, there's a dictionary meaning, and there is personal meaning. And everyone's meaning of daring and creativity is different, just like those words mean something different to people. So I kind of packaged it up and see what happens, because, I wanted to have something that I can use as my sort of philosophy that I could push out there and see what people, if people relate to it, and see what they think of it.
Yeah. And whose answer did surprise you the most? What answer? I mean, you've had quite a lot of guests on your podcast, and
I've had 50 guests on this season, and I just finished the season. It's been, I don't think anyone's given me like direct example or direct answer of what it is. It's more about a sort of overarching philosophy of like finding something at the right time. So let's say Danae Gossett said this quote: the teacher shows up when the student is ready. You know, like there's always that element that you need to put yourself in the path of the future. We had Barney Molivero who said, you need to put yourself in the luck of the path. Like was you working, so something happens. There was obviously James Victore who said, he's the sort of Native American tale about two wolves, that there's two wolves fighting inside you, and it's the one that wins. One of them is for passion and creativity, the other one's for hate. The wolf that wins is the one that you feed the most. And everyone's had something really interesting to say about the subject, because no two people were the same, no two stories were the same, and I've just spent 50 plus hours just listening to people telling me their stories on a topic that I kind of invented for them. And it's just like when you present it to them, it's kind of almost hold a mirror. It's interesting. We also extended that question. I'll actually do one more thing. I extended that question to my community. So I've got a community for my new book and for this extension called daringforever.com. And it's a circle community. And I put into the introduction post, actually you remember yourself.
Yeah,
I put an introduction post that said, what does daring forever mean to you? And I know most people in the community so far. And the answer of people when they said, this is what daring forever means to me. And I'm like, I know you. Or as in like generally, I know the person that, let's say, responded to the post. And they gave me such a beautiful, powerful, philosophical answer that I know that they struggle in their personal lives. They struggle with work. I know that the creativity throws them around. And I know there's doubts and fears and hopes, all of that stuff. But people, when you ask them, like, what do you really stand for, will give you the most beautiful answer because they believe in what they do. It's just that the mechanics of life and logistics is sometimes in the way.
Okay. No, that's really interesting. I mean, to hear all those different answers, especially from the people you know. But Daring Creativity is also the title of your book, of your next book, which is coming out when exactly?
So I've made it really confusing because I've decided that I was writing one book called Daring Creativity, Daring Forever. And because I've taken a long time to actually produce this, and it was kind of, for the first time, the book's been ready for the last 2 or 3 months, and I'm releasing it in October. The first book is going to be called Daring Forever, which is the manifesto for how to do stuff. There'll be a book called Daring Creativity, which is a summary of the 50 podcast episodes. And I'm just about to start recording and publishing my next 50 episodes for another book, which is going to be called Forever Daring Humans. So making it as confusing as I could. Daring Creativity was meant to be the title of the book, but before I could even tell people that there's 4 words in the title, they're like, oh yeah, good. I'm like, no, wait a minute. We've got Daring Forever, Daring Creativity, and Forever Daring Humans. And it's just like a trilogy of books that really celebrates the manifesto in Daring Forever, which is the chapters about permission, acceptance, curiosity, and gratitude. And then it puts a focus on just a summary of the 50 conversations plus another 50 conversations with people who are, forever daring humans, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, that's, putting it all together, I assume it takes quite a lot of time, especially since you've talked to 50 different people and had quite a lot of research on the side as well. So how long does it usually take you to write a book?
It really depends on the topic, because I did 2 books in 2023, which they were called Creativity for Sale and Mindful Creative. It was my double album. I always wanted to make 2 books at the same time. And I did those 2 books in 9 months. It was a breakneck speed. It was, that was in my regular speed, that was slow, but for 2 books and 80,000 words of what I wanted to say I allowed myself to enjoy it. This book, it was Daring Forever is based on the based on the content of my TEDx talk, which I did in December 24. So overall, about a year and a half to produce this book, and it's unbelievably, it's taken me like longer to produce a chapter than it's taken me to produce a book before. Like it's just,
Oh, wow.
I've allowed myself more time because I really wanted to find out like I believe what's a career defining work. There is a practice round. There's a lots of fun that you can have, and then you realize, okay, now we're gonna do something which will define us, hopefully. And I really wanted to go to town, which is the expression to say like I wanted to go deep on going on the neuroscience of the brain and going on the real understanding of how we work, because it's beautiful and easy to. I mean, maybe it's not easy, but it's beautiful and comforting to write a book about creative philosophy. Saying, I believe we should all use this process because that will help you to do stuff. And then you write it down, you publish it, and someone says, maybe not.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got their own processes. Whereas Shakira said, the hips don't lie. I don't know why I just said that. But it's like, the body doesn't lie. The body keeps the score. The body's, we got very similar equipment to everyone else. And how we use it, how we operate it, how we look after it really then influences how we go through life, how we operate, how we create, how we live, how much compassion we have, how we process certain things, and how we grow more calm and peaceful to actually enjoy the process. Because, as you know, creative work is challenging sometimes. We are
Absolutely.
we are complicated human beings. We live in wonderful lives, but so is creativity. It's beautifully complicated if you allow it, but also you can give yourself a chance to learn more about it. So I think I spent about a year and a half on this book, but it's only like, the last 4 or 5 months when things come together. It's that there was this remarkable part, even with the help of AI, kind of looking for clues. You kind of allow yourself, like, look, I want to write this my way. And then you're like, what does the world know? And I came to the point where I knew for a year and a half what the 5 chapters were going to be.
Okay.
I just couldn't find the links in between them. I was trying to find like, what does it actually say? What does it need to say? Where am I taking people? Because ultimately the book is the manifesto that if you feel that you might be wanting to do something, if you feel that you should be moving on your trajectory, this book is kind of like a comfort hug going, you know what? We all feel the same. There's ways to do this, and we'll find out how it's possible to do it, because it's a bit of a motivational book, and I wanted to really unlock the truths, the biological truths, to people who might be hiding behind the terms like imposter syndrome, and not being introverts, or being people who are shy and don't not feel like they might be sort of second guessing their lives. And I wanted to spell out the things like, what? I've met so many famous people in my life, and they're still second guessing them at the age of 60. It's all fine. Just like you're good, you're safe.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love that part especially because I've also talked to a lot of people and some mutual guests as well. And this morning I recorded a session with Gemma O'Brien. You had it in your previous season, I think, as well. And I mean, she had a huge career, and we talked about the imposter syndrome, and it's still there. And it was still there for Jessica Heish and so many others who have like these huge careers, and that's, as you said, it's something that will always be there, and it's not really going to disappear. So, and
yeah. I mean, I think with the imposter syndrome, it's like it depends. Like, I think there's a gap between who you are and how you see yourself, and I think that's the difference. Because I was lucky that I never had creative imposter syndrome. I felt a bit more like a societal imposter because I'm an immigrant. I'm originally from Czech Republic. I live in the UK.
Yes.
It's a very class-based society where, like you are obviously in every society, you're an immigrant if you're an immigrant, right? So I didn't realize for how long time I was more of a societal imposter, like how I perceived myself in the situation. But creatively, I was always lucky that I was just so naive and stupid. I was like, let me do it.
Okay.
I want to justify this, because I think creative imposter syndrome, I think, is more about how you see your space within the landscape of all the others. Am I good enough? Is someone doing better work? But what I love, and what I love to do, and what I've created for myself, unknowingly at first, is the idea of the singular. That what you do, you own in every possible way. Like, I'm doing this. Like, I know that I, for example, personally, I've created this mixture of different disciplines and different activities and different output. and I know that I can enjoy it, that I don't have to compare this to anybody else. I can take some inspiration from different sides, but the idea of singular is like, enjoy your own creativity, enjoy what you're making, stop looking and thinking like, is it better than this person or that person? Because ultimately, are you producing your best work? And the term came to me from, the term of singular came from a video of Pharrell Williams listening to Maggie Rogers, who's now super famous. And she played him the song Alaska, and he listened to it and says, what you do is singular. And she's just sitting there like shocked, and they're like, freaking Pharrell Williams, right? And he says, no, that's what you're doing is singular. And I think that's the most important achievement. Not in my opinion, it's to really double down on who you are and become more of who you already are, and go on that path and don't look like left and right. Get yourself inspired, validate your ideas. But we know that Jessica Hayes is singular. We know that Gemma O'Brien's singular. It's more about stopping the busyness of the mind and stopping the movement or the momentum of work, and then allowing yourself thinking, am I doing it right? I think this the scaries that happen to everyone. It's more like, how are you now really equipped to deal with them? And most of the time you just sit with it and just watch the cloud go, okay, that's just a dark cloud, let it pass, and we go again.
Yeah, that's so true. There are a couple of things I will circle back that you just said. One of them being that you are from Czech Republic, well, ex-Czechoslovakia and everything. But before that, one of the things that actually really amazed me, and what you've been doing practically all your life, is doing things before you know them. And you've called that now before how.
Yeah.
Is that part of the being brave, of being daring in your own life? I mean, you started doing graphic design before you actually knew anything about the graphic design, and starting agency without being in an agency, writing books probably before knowing anything about the books. So tell us more about it. I mean, that's quite interesting to me as well.
Thank you. Thanks for picking on that one, because I think it's just the nature of wanting to do stuff, right? It's just kind of like, this might link back to my previous answer, because imposter syndrome is the gap between where you are, where you see yourself. Whereas I think, in my opinion, I always saw myself on the other side, because I thought, this thing is so exciting. I really want to do it. I don't know how to do it yet, but I like the idea that if I click all the buttons or press all the things or whatever, that thing might happen. So there was a pattern in my life where, yes, I mean, I joined an ice hockey team before I could ice skate, but we learned that.
Yeah.
I started a band before I could play an instrument or had an instrument. I was like, I wanted to be in a band. Let's make it happen. Then I remember I wanted to be a DJ, and I found myself in a club when I said, music's rubbish, can I step up? They're like, yeah, just go for it. And they just let me do it. I was like, I had no experience, but I was like, this is fun. And I think maybe it just links back also to the answers about other people about daring creativity. You put yourself in a lag's path, because it wouldn't be that someone said like, hey, by the way, do you want to be a butcher? I'm like, I know nothing about it. Like that wouldn't work. But do you want to be a graphic designer? I was like, well, that's an interesting idea, because I've been thinking about this. But I think that naive ignorance, not knowing what it actually entails, actually helps you to go and do things that you might like the outcome of. So I've started discovering this now versus how, or maybe I just gave it the labels as I was working on my TEDx talk in 2024. And my speaking coach was trying to really say like, well, you've done all of these things, but I wouldn't. I'm not as daring or spontaneous. I'm like, I'm not daring or spontaneous. I'm just maybe a little bit stupid, or maybe too excited, or maybe I just don't think like what might be in between this, but not between now and the how, because that's the beautiful part. I've been trying to decipher that recently, and with a guest about the idea of not knowing that we don't know what we do, because I found myself being slightly peed off by the fact that people say, look, I don't know what I'm doing. And people are clapping like, oh, well done, you. And I'm like, well, God, it's good to know stuff, right? It's like, if you know a little bit, I think we might not look like fools. But then you realize it's really good to not know. It's just, I think there's a levels of allowing yourself to find the unknown and sort of open things and really explore that human, beautiful curiosity and what, when you're safe in your mind, when you've accepted who you are, that you've accepted like what your life is, then you can really focus on what's ahead of you, like what's forward. And I think that's the beautiful part, because it could be said that lots of people are working against the past data points and like, what have I achieved? Where am I going? What's going on? Am I doing this right? And in my silly naivety, I'm like, well, we're going to publish 3 books now. I mean, who's going to fund them? I don't know yet, but like, let's do it. Like, we're going to work it out. Like, there's the beauty in giving yourself time to do it, because I didn't learn how to ice skate in a week. I had to spend some time. I remember in my early 30s, well, not even that, I agreed to have a gallery show. I've never created a gallery show, but I've created pieces within a month, on a theme of the West End show, about the characters which are, the quarters of the West End, or the parts of the West End. And just like you give yourself time, and you're like, everything makes sense a little bit by bit, because it's a bit like when you think about, like, let's say snowboarders, like the backcountry snowboarders or Olympic skiers or whatever. They're like the idea of the thing. Between they are ready to do the thing, there's lots to do. Like no one jumps out of helicopter and goes, "Oh shit, what are we doing now?" This is going to be fun, because that will never work. So I think what we perceive in this life, what people can perceive as a risk, it's not really a risk. It's just extraordinary stuff that doesn't follow the ordinary patterns. I think this is where the exciting stuff happens, because there's such thing as what I believe, and I've seen it as a quote, which says, "No risk, no story." The risk is about just do something different, right? Just don't repeat the same thing and hope that story will follow from it. And if it does, it might be slightly boring one. But it's more about sort of spotting something, identifying with it, and go, let's do it. Let's find out.
Okay. Do you think you would do all those things if you knew how hard they were?
I think I would apply myself a bit more sooner. I think.
Okay.
I would, yeah, of course. I mean, I wouldn't have changed a single thing, because it's got me to the point where my understanding of the world, the appreciation of it, the mixtures of, understanding music, understanding journalism, writing, economics, all of that stuff is interesting data points, because you can have more conversation with different people. I didn't really try hard in any of this until I was about 30-ish. I was like, This is all happening. Like there's no rational, like it's easy to be average. It's easy to be average and be comfortable. And I was just sort of sampling. I was trying and testing. And it was only like later when I realized that we have real powers to invent our own futures. So in 2016, I did my first proper book, because I did like book lists before, and they were like fun to sort of sell and send to people and sell them to people. So I was like, let's do a proper book. And that was the real learning of like, okay, I can do this really well, and we can sell these books really well when I teach myself how to put it together, how to write them, how to actually sell books. Like that's forget writing books. That's the easy part. How to sell 100,000 paperbacks is a different story altogether. Like it costs a lot of money. Costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. You need to teach yourself the methods of the regular publishers and the advertising. And then you realize, we can actually sell books, even though we're not as famous as whoever anywhere. So it's more about like realizing that you go one shot in all of this. And when you really apply yourself, when you really turn up the obsession, not passion, but the obsession, magical things happen, because you realize that all of a sudden, where you find yourself, you're climbing the mountain, which seems so impossible at first to conquer, and you do it on your own. You're singular, and that's the most like I was going to say revealing, but that's not the right word. It's most liberating and satisfying thing. Like, oh my God, no one was pushing me up this hill. I climbed up on my own, with with support and cheerleaders from others, but I had you have to make that trip yourself. And that's the beautiful part, because you realize that you have actually applied yourself, become accountable, and you really realize that there is something in this, and no one's taking it away from you, but equally no one made it for you, because you have to make it yourself.
I love that. I mean, it's such a great philosophy, and I definitely, completely agree with that. And it's such a different thing to hear from someone else, that how it works. And especially I like the part that you wouldn't change a thing, because after all, you probably wouldn't be where you are if you would change any of the things before. So that's really good. So you also mentioned, and I read it online and everything, you were born in Czechoslovakia, currently in a part where that's currently Czech Republic, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. How was growing up in Czech Republic comparing to how your kids are growing up in the UK right now?
Okay, well, growing up in Czech Republic was pretty chaotic. I grew up in a small town towards northeast in a triangle between Poland and Slovakia. It was about 80,000 people, and everyone I knew was either a musician, artist, or a drunk. That was pretty much it. I grew up. I was a teenager in the 90s, and I really stopped myself from saying that the 90s were the best decade in the world, because it was, but every teenager thinks that their decade was the best one. So I've stopped saying that. But the 90s were most amazing. It was the most fascinating time because we used to get phenomenal albums every year, every 6 months. You had everything from Chili to Metallica to Alice in Chains. It was amazing. And imagine you've got those teenage hormones. You go like,
yeah.
It's good stuff. It's amazing. And you were surrounded people who wanted to be those things because the life was slightly simpler. So there's musicians making amazing music. I want to be a musician. There's an ice hockey team winning trophies. I want to be an ice hockey team. It was easy. And then there were people making art, and they were, drinking a lot because they were not sold to therapy in that sense. It was invented obviously, but they were like, why would I solve myself? So people were sort of exercising their hopes, fears and ambitions and their demons in different ways. And they had a sort of societal impact that you realize, okay, I can do all of these things. They might lead me to somewhere. So in a way, obviously as a child from a single parent family, it was proper chaotic. It was beautifully naive, and it was a bit like the boiling frog. You don't know what you are because everyone else's life around you is similar. And then I moved to the UK. I realized that life is chaotic wherever you go. And now the life of my children is different because obviously it's less chaotic, it's more predictable. I think the life is more destined to be interesting because my daughter was building an online Shopify store for her horse treats in the age of 9. She had the POS set up and doing everything. We've been creating a merchandise for her. This is a different story, right? I didn't know the word branding till I was 25 or something, and she's telling me about a brand, So I think that there's this thing that's got this trickle down effect that they know more. They do more. They are using AI in their work in school. She's 10. My boy is 6.
Wow.
So obviously they are being prepared for what's to come. So it couldn't have been the same upbringing. Otherwise, be slightly different. There's no chance of Alice in Chains' new album coming out the way it would come out before. So it's different. It's less adventurous in a way, but there's more clued up on the philosophy and the idea. When my daughter told me, my strategy for this is this one. And I'm like, who are you? I didn't know the word strategy till I was 35.
Yeah. So
obviously
here.
Yeah. So we've pushed the world a lot further closer to younger people and giving them a little more information. I think it would be absolutely criminal if we haven't done that. So it's good that they know more. I do worry about the innocence because I think you're now more expected to be something fairly soon.
Yeah.
Whereas if you lost your 20s or 30s doing whatever, people would be like, he's got time, he will work something out. So I think it's more performative world from people who were growing up in chaos now, bringing up children, going, all right, you need this and you need this. And I think we don't always give children, and this is my sort of overview from the school where they are and stuff. I'm not always sure if it's for the parent, if it's for the child. I think it's just okay, let's do 20 things and see where you find yourself. Whereas I believe do the one thing that you really want to do and you'll do it for a while rather than drop out and whatever. But one of the anecdotes is that we're not pushy parents.
Okay.
But she's decided that she wants a violin, and she's like, I'm gonna learn the violin. And we're like, what? You want to play violin? And then she thought, because she was always used to do things that they came to her easy. So she starts playing violin, and the beginning was good, and then it starts getting a bit hard. And she's like, Who gave me the violin?
Oh God.
You asked for it.
Yeah. Violin is hard.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, I can imagine. No, that's really cool. I love that. I also wanted to know, because I come from a similar background and living in a country where we are not born and speaking in language that's not our native language. Especially for you, how was it too difficult to be accepted in the UK?
This is an interesting question, because I alluded before to the fact that I had a sort of societal imposter syndrome, right?
Yes.
I wanted to blend in when I came in. I was like, if I could have a perfect accent and give myself a name, John Smith, I would take it. Right? Is it available? Okay, I'll buy it now. Give it to me. Take it.
Okay.
And the more you understand the environment, the more you understand the people, because obviously you try to put the homecomers obviously like onto this sort of this pedestal, because this is their place. I'm here as a foreigner or as an immigrant, sort of trying to make my own story. You realize that they're more interested in you because their story is boring, because the story has been the same for 20, 30 years. And you're like, who are you? You're in short supply. Come and talk to me. Like, what? Your name? Oh, I love your name. It's really interesting. I'm like, well, I wish I was called John, because it would be easy to spell. And it wasn't until I really doubled down on who I am in a way that I didn't care what people thought about stuff. Because I realized the world I was building for myself, the singular world, was far more fucking interesting than someone else's world. They'd be like, oh, you've done so well coming into this country, learning the language and building a business. And I'm thinking, thank you. And what?
Yeah.
Nothing. So it's like a sort of fake compliment. I can sort of seem, I can make a sort of silly jokes about it. But there is an immigrant mindset that you work harder because you don't have the financial sort of netting. I can't pronounce it because it's too hard, but obviously it's the safety, financial safety of a family, or of the closest that can help you out. So you apply yourself a lot harder, and you create the most amazing things. So it wasn't, when you said, did you feel like did it take time to get accepted? It all took to accept myself. The rest came for the more I was at ease with who I am, how tall I stand, how I speak, what I stand for, what I can create. Then I was accepted because I accepted myself. So when you wait for somebody else, they might have a problem with that thing themselves. So it's like, how do you change it? So yeah, I think it all comes from the fact that, as I said in my book Daring Forever, there's 4 chapters, and it's permission is about using the vehicle that we've got and say, this is who I am, this is what I work, this is the idea of like how it works. And then you step in a second chapter in the acceptance as the driver of the vehicle and say, this is who I am inside, this is how I operate. I might be operating differently to that person or this person, but I'm accepting that this is my decision, this is my way of thinking, this is my way of creating. I'm only able to do certain things a certain way. Therefore, I should stop longing and wishing to do things different way and just appreciate what I can do, because it's something that the other people might be wishing they do my way. And that opens up lots of opportunities. Becoming more of who you already are is the most magical part, because you don't have to be anybody else, because they're all taken and yours is here, like your life is here. So yeah, it's a good question, because I don't know how it was for you, but being accepted is when I accepted myself, everything became much easier. But how was it for you?
Well, it's pretty much the same, I would say. I mean, it took me quite a while to be comfortable with, with myself, with who I am, and actually being free to be myself. Especially, coming from, well, same as you, from a ex-communist country and country in a war, coming, growing up there and everything, and accepting that background and all of the things that happened and everything. It wasn't really the easiest thing, but I would say that, and I've said it so many times, I feel like I've been born and lived here like my whole life. So Spain really helped me a lot to be me to be free around myself. So that was, I mean, I completely agree that until you really accept yourself, it's not, nobody else will really see you as you are. So that's really, really good. And I completely agree with that part.
Oh, thanks.
But yeah. And how was it? How long it took you to accept yourself?
I would say longer than it should have done.
Oh.
I think it's taken longer than it should have done. No, I can tell you that. I mean, I'm 48 now, and things have started making sense from the age of 40. I really throw myself into therapy. I throw myself into philosophy, and really understanding why creativity in my earlier life was the escape place. Yeah, I didn't make a sense of my childhood for a very long time, and I thought childhood was easy, free, liberating, creative, stimulating, only to realize there was elements of fear and negative energy that I was hiding away from it. I was finding ways to do things so I don't have to do X, Y, Z. And then those kind of things have got sort of knock-on effect on you. So you obviously deal with some trauma, you deal with anxiety, you deal with societal pressure. There's a lot in the mix, and you go like, okay, what do we do? So we can do drinking, or we can do partying, or we can do creativity, we can do all of that, because you hide away. Because after 3 drinks, everyone is the same, regardless where they were born, right?
Yeah.
And what I did in my early 30s, my career started taking off really well. Things were getting good, and I realized that the more I worked, the less I have to deal with my things. I was just like working all the time, burning myself out. I thought I was the happiest person in the world, and I was crying in my chocolate cake, my birthday cake, because I was so overworked. I was just like, I didn't know why I was doing all of this. I thought it was great to be accepted by others, like you get validated for your work, you get paid for your work, you get more work, you get more, and you're like, oh, this is great. And then you realize, I can't do this anymore because I'm hurting, I'm aching. So you start working on backwards of like, who am I? What is going on in my life? Why am I doing this? Why do I need this? And I remember that willingness to put yourself up for awards, for talks, for visibility. You're kind of thinking like, oh, I'm here. Like we are all here. I know we should be looking after each other, but like, can I stand taller? And then you realize when you start making more sense of yourself, when you start accepting yourself, when you're realizing that some of the societal things that you brought with yourself from your country of origin or from your hometown, the reactions, the ingrained instincts or the perceived instincts and borrowed, don't always produce the right results. So I went into therapy to realize that the 40 years of my life prior were a bit of a chaos. Beautiful chaos, but chaos nonetheless. And I still work on loads of ways of using equine therapy at the moment to actually find the truth of who I am. Because there's junctions in life that you decide to go left and right. And, sometimes if you got it sorted, you should stay straight. Sometimes when you're looking for something new, you go left. Sometimes you just decide to, just make things worse and go to the other direction. So there are reasons why creativity can be this perfect escapism. Why? Because it's something that you don't have to find too many answers for yourself. Like if you keep pressing, you go further away from your problems. So I would say it was the last 8 years where the lifestyle started to make more sense. Okay. It's still an ongoing work, and there's still more to find. I'm working, and as I said, doing equine therapy. So you work on your problems, and then you assign them to horses. You create obstacles, and they read your aura, they read your energy to tell you you can't hide away from your bullshit, basically. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting to find out because you find yourself. It's almost like when you go to the gym a lot. Thinking, I'm in a good shape now, and then you let it go for 3 months, 4 months. You're like, it's gone. It's almost start again. So it means like it's almost like a continuous work, and making books and trying to understand a little bit more about ourselves kind of opens your ears a little bit more. Because therapy opens your ears because you want to know and understand your life. You want to understand the life of others. Like how do you integrate better with your partner, or with your society, or with your colleagues, with your clients. And then the same thing happens when you write a book. Like, what can I understand from the pattern of the work that we create? Where does it go? What does it mean? And it's very cathartic in a way that it opens you to new experiences because you can take life as it comes at you. Like, okay, this is this, next, whatever. You don't have to. You can easily float through life and just have a average job and not question too many things.
Yeah.
And you might have a better life. You might just go like, this is fine. You
Yeah,
might be thinking
be happier.
you might think that Donald Trump is a swell guy. Like, yeah, he's doing a great job. But when you start probing things, you can realize, yeah, this could work better. And I'm thinking like so many things that could be improved in creativity and understanding, empathy, compassion. How do we do stuff? What do we do it for? What is it? It can really give us lots of understanding of where we can potentially make such impact in the world.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, you mentioned therapy, and I did as well. Was it hard to accept for you the idea of the therapy, like actually going to therapy?
It's an interesting question because I've picked apart the topic in Mindful Creative in my book. Growing up in Eastern Bloc, everyone's normal. No one needs therapy, and if someone needs therapy, they're like really fucking crazy. And you realize that, I mean, my first step into therapy was the fact that it was more like needing an acute surgery on a problem. I was so burnt out that there was no other way of going on, right? Because you might be skirting around, or you might be skating around the idea of, maybe I should do this, or if someone tells me this is the good thing. But we need to accept that if things will only happen when you really want to make a change. You can have 25 different people telling you that therapy is a great thing. You can read 25 different books that will show you how to change your life and improve. Only until you decide to make it, when that radical self accountability comes into place, and you're like, okay, I want to feel differently, or I'm so low and so broken that we need to do something about it. And I was literally like, imagine a multi-fracture going, I need a surgery. I need to do stuff quick, because it was horrific in a way. I was so overworked, over-caffeinated, dehydrated, stupid, because I was working all the time. And I remember coming to my first therapy session, which was a cognitive behavioral therapy, because I've always had some sort of anxieties and fear, sort of phobias of heights and that kind of stuff. And everything got multiplied. Imagine like the buttons were like turned up to 11. And I'm like, I can't cross the street. I'm so broken. And the therapist says, so if you were to do like 100% pie chart, and say, how much is work? How much is rest? How much is play? How much is relationship? I'm like, it's 96% work. I'm a superstar. And she's like, can you see the problem here? I'm like, no, I'm doing great. She's like, why are you here? Because you can't cross the street without crying. So I'm like, oh yeah, I understand now. And you realize that life is full of inputs that need to add up. You need to eat colorful food to feel good. Everyone would like to eat chocolate from the moment they wake up. I mean,
absolutely.
Everyone would like to drink beer for breakfast, but it's not good for you. So it's like, how do you work out your life that it adds up? And I've been so aware of those life inputs that the idea of going to therapy at first, it wasn't failure. It wasn't like no one was watching, no one was judging. It was more about that relief that finally someone's coming to help you to make sense of things. So I'll tell you that obviously from my experience, the more you talk about therapy geographically, there's still places that are backward. It's still seen as a cop-out. It might be still being seen as weak, but it's usually the people who need the therapy the most, who are fearing the subject the most, that really should embrace it. So there's no such thing as being, a failure just because you want to feel better.
I absolutely agree. I remember my first time, it was here in Madrid, I think 2019, like the fall before the COVID and pandemic and everything. And I went, it was this really, really amazing therapist. And, she started asking questions, and I've told her like my background story and my growing up in childhood and everything that's happening. And she was just completely shocked how I'm even functioning at that moment, and I was like having my own business. I was going out and she was completely shocked at that moment. And I realized she heard a lot of things, and she was like this older woman, and she heard a lot of things during her practice and everything. And if she was this shocked, things need to change. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was kind of a more revealing moment to me than going to the therapy. Actually, the process of going there. So it was really good, and my eyes open. And as you said, there are so many countries and places in the world that still see that as something weak, as something that is, you go if you're completely crazy, and like for a mental health institution or whatever. And it's completely different. I mean, if you want to grow, if you want to become better, and if you want actually to accept yourself as you are, you really need someone to help you out if you went through things. Even if you haven't, there's so many things happening in the world right now. And if you don't have anyone to talk to, going to therapy is like the perfect thing. A couple of episodes back, I talked with, I think he was on your podcast as well, Matt Voice.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, we talked about anxiety and everything, and about him going to therapy and finally, trying to sort himself out. And he had when you see it from the outside, it's a good life. It's, social media especially makes things even better. But I really, really, learned to respect people who are ready to go to therapy, because it's not something that, it's so widely accepted. And so that's really, really good thing to know that, even though you are so successful and so have so many good things behind you, you still accept that therapy is something you need and are not afraid to talk about it. So that's really great.
Well, thank you. I mean, I've realized through many different escapades in my life that it's how you keep things up, like it's how you do stuff. And I'll give you a great example about losing weight.
Oh, okay.
I remember trying to lose weight 15 years ago, and I had no idea. I never put myself on scales. Therefore, I was never happy about what it was. And I look at the photos, I'm like, oh my God, I was like unhealthily skinny. But I thought I was still, still overweight. And there's methods to it. Like, obviously, when you don't measure progress, you don't know where you are. So like, if you don't know your happiness over the things, you don't know how far you've gone. And the expression I've seen recently is like, if you want to lose weight, spend the first 6 months trying to lose weight, and then the other 6 months keep it where it should be.
Yeah.
Because what happens in our sort of fast forward, sort of speedy world is that we make something happen, and then we hope that it will stick. Like we just completed a level, and therefore we go to another level, and dropping back. And that kind of works with the therapy, with exercise, with everything. Like, you are never finished, and you're finding new ways. And if you were to tell me that, I mean, I think I've been in therapy for 11 years, or maybe now 12, maybe even more, 12 or maybe 13, still counting. You're finding new things. You're still making sense of things that you start on something in 2013 and you make sense of it in 2019 or 2020. You're like, how did that not was obvious? How was it not obvious that this could potentially work? Because we're processing stuff. Some of the stuff is like so deep pushed into our brains and our experiences that it's only coming out with the right techniques and tools.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a society, I don't know about yourself, but I grew up in a society where people were quite angry, and I couldn't really understand why. There was a lot of anger, and I always thought that I was the problem, only to realize like how much I never wanted to come across as an angry person. So I've suppressed a lot of anger in myself. And I always thought I was a very peaceful and very happy person. But obviously you're eating yourself alive, because you're that physical reaction that you can't help because it's there. It's a natural feeling. Obviously creates a different emotion, and that pushes you in a different place. And I did a whole session on anger, which I didn't think was my anger, but it was someone else's anger, only to realize that what we get from other people is the mirror in our lives of what we project. And it's, again, the concept of radical accountability in this moment goes to creative lives where something doesn't go well, and you got two options. You either actually are very, you hold yourself accountable, thinking I could have done this better, or you are unresolved and you go, this client is this, that person's done this project didn't work, there was not enough money, da 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 da. You list every single problem, but you never point finger at yourself. And that's when you realize you've got a lot of work to do. And I've seen a great quote recently which said, the person who blames others has got a long way to go. The person who blames themselves is halfway there. The person who blames no one is there. They've arrived. And this is the thing. It's like, you accept life as it comes to you. You accept what you can change. You accept what you can't change, and just focus on those elements. Because if you're in control of something, then you can influence your life. You can build something. Whereas if you feel that everything's against you, then you really need to look at yourself. Go like, maybe I'm the one doing the wrong.
Okay.
maybe I need some help. So. Yeah, it's those kind of things are more liberating than unlocking new Firefly plugin in Photoshop, because I found that the more I accepted myself, the more I understood myself, the more I had space and time to speak to other people, understand them, see what I can do for them. That's one of the reasons why I named my book Creativity for Sale, because ultimately it's creativity for sale, let's be honest. And I had a great conversation with Chris Dove about it, like challenging the concept, because we are too enamored with our professions, thinking that we're doing the right thing. We are artists, creatives, we'll be carried. But when you see the world, how the world operates, most people take average as, that's the gospel. That's fine. But, how do you change behaviors and perceptions? That doesn't just come because you've made a nice font or chosen a nice image. It comes with the fact that we encourage people to understand more of themselves, want to do better, want to get better stuff from what they get, what they do. And I think that's just the progress. I think that's just literally like the progress of like how we sucking this together, because I'm sure every creative listening to this would say, I want to inspire at least one person in my life.
Yeah.
You can inspire more than them by completely, a lot less. You don't have to push for the best creative work. I believe, and that's part of the concept of daring forever, is that we need to work on the thing that makes us singular. We need to work on our way of how to express ourselves, what we believe in, because you can't always carry a portfolio in your pocket. But when you tell people what you stand for, what you believe in, you're gonna have so many people for you, because they will understand what you're saying. And I think this is the part of, I think, modern creativity that will really change the panic of AI and over creating or trying to invent things or being more hands-on. Because when you think about it, that's still silent work. Like, that's pretty, but it doesn't always have the voice of the creator. But when you get someone to open up, to say what they believe in, we are already reaching people beyond the art, because your art might be liked by 50% of the people and 50% might not like it. Whereas when you tell stories of creative life or pursuits of daring creativity to people who've got nothing to do with it, they'll be like, well, that sounds interesting. What do you do?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's completely true. And I could honestly talk to you like 4 hours more. But I know kids are home. You have probably some work to do. I have work and everything, and we are almost by an hour. I will ask 2 more questions, hoping that we will repeat the session at some point to ask additional ones.
Okay.
When you write, because you're coming from Czech Republic and you are now, well, all your work is in English, do you first think in Czech, or is it already like natural to you to think and start writing in English? Are there things that you are not able to say in English that you are able to say only in Czech?
That's an interesting question. I've been here for 26 years, and I started dreaming in English 26 years ago. I think it took me about a month, and I was like, oh my God, I'm dreaming in English. Wow. This is really interesting. And it's never stopped. I had to work out a lot of Czechness out of me, because one of the things that we do in Czech really well, especially where I was born, we play with the language. You play with the sounds. We play with the similes. You can make silly words and people will accept it. Whereas you can't do the same in English, because you will start playing with the language. People are like, what are you doing? Doesn't make any sense. Like, what do you want, right? So I've kind of, you kind of stop exercising that muscle and it goes away a little bit. So it's only like randomly I would have like an idea of an expression or something. But when it comes to writing, it's very much inspired by the environment, by the inputs, and all of them are in English. And I'm writing it for the English audience and non-English speaking audience to make sure that they understand. So I'm kind of writing it for my younger self to say like, okay, don't give me big words. Don't try to be a big man. Just write it in a way so anyone in Philippines or Singapore can understand what you're saying, because ultimately that's how you're going to further people's lives. So it's not been a problem, because it's English has always been such an important part of my life. It's one of the reasons why I moved here, because I wanted to speak English every day. It still doesn't properly work if sometimes, but that's how you accept life.
Yeah, that's so true. And the final question is something I ask quite a lot of my guests lately. If you would have to, right at this moment, delete all your work and leave just one thing, what would you leave?
Okay, I would definitely think that my new book is the thing that I'll be working towards. If I was deleting everything, which I would happily do, I believe it all leads to this sort of very important piece of work that I'm putting together, which is a combination of everything I've done for 48 years. I think that's the part of it that I'm really happy that the moment where I am now is where I always wanted to be. Not that I knew I would be at this moment. Not that I would know that I'd be trying to get into the world of neuroscience and make sense of it in the world of creativity. But I would happily delete everything, because that's exactly what I'm going to be standing behind for the next 3 to 4 years. And I'll be happily deleting that book in 5 years' time, because I'll be standing behind the next one, because that will have got me, as I try to paint that impression of the mountain. You climb a higher mountain all the time, because that's the challenge. Because in the world of sport and mental strength and sports science and sports science and psychology, every event is a mountain. Like, you always climbing a higher mountain, and you prepare yourself for the setbacks. You prepare yourself for the things that might not go well. It might be challenging. You might want to turn around. You might be aching, but the summit is up there. And when you get there, you can decide what you're going to do next. You're going to go to another mountain, or you're going to come back, And I think that's the part of our lives that things have become quite easy, but everyone can imagine their impossible mountain to say, okay, I'm going to conquer that. And then we see where we go next. But until then, I'm only focusing on that point, and that's what it is. And I think that's been the most liberating thing about my career now, because I don't entertain 25 different things. I don't entertain, I do lots of other things. We got coffee company and all sorts of things.
Yes.
But it feels like it's leading behind, especially those two words, daring forever, are my shield, my protest placard. This is what I want to people encourage, because it works, because you can find your singular.
That is probably the best way to end the episode anyway. I just want to ask shortly, just to resume, Daring Forever is coming out in October, and Daring Creativity and Humans Who Dare at the same time, or
No. So Daring Forever comes out on October 20th.
Okay.
Daring Creativity is going to be January 2027, and Forever Daring Humans will be October 2027. So from October to October, there'll be 3 books within every 6 months. And I'll be starting, I don't know when this one's coming out, but I'll start taking pre-orders and start making noise about it. It's beautifully designed book. The input from all the people that's been part of it has been remarkable. I think it's incredible to be able to sort of have this moment of gratitude and go, you know what? It's not always easy, but it's hella worth it.
But it's worth it, right?
Yeah, it's hella worth it to be going, you know what? I'm pushing myself into something that is giving me the freedom and the satisfaction to prove, not even prove anyone that it's impossible, because lots of people have shown us how impossible things are possible. But it's having that realization that, you know what? No one made me to do this. This is the moment of now. Now I know I want to make 3 books. The how, financials, sponsorship, we'll work it out. But if there's no now, right now, what is that?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to all 3 books, and I'm sure they will be absolutely amazing. By what I've seen so far, it's definitely worth pre-ordering. And I haven't even been paid to say this. So, yeah, I mean, I love what I read so far, and I definitely recommend that. Thank you, Radim, for being a part of this. Thank you for sharing all the knowledge with my listeners and with yours as well. And I really hope we do catch up at some point, either in person or online as well. And thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's really nice to share. Sometimes it's always nice to be on the other side of the microphone, not needing to come up with the next question because I never have any ready. But
okay.
it's always a pleasure to speak to someone like yourself who is passionate about what they do, want to enrich the society at large, creative society, with conversations that, if they inspire one person, that's what really matters. But I look forward to meeting you in person very soon. You need to come to one of our community dinners, whether it's in Barcelona, Madrid, or London. And yeah, we'll continue this conversation because what you do is remarkable. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And have a lovely evening with your kids and enjoy your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. And bye-bye.